I'm Bonnie Seary. I'm the state coordinator for Project Search, which means I have the privilege of helping people get started and arranging the training for Project Search. Project Search is an exceptional model for helping individuals get employed. And so Rosani Rios asked us to come and share it with you all. I'm going to show you a video to start with, just so you get a really good idea of what it's like. It's one of our newer sites, TSIS in Columbus. They've been in operation now, I guess, 3 years. And then I'll go through a little bit of data with you. Feel free to ask questions anytime. Then we have a great panel over here of people. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves before I turn on the video for you.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Williams with the Georgia Mountains WorkSource.
Good morning. I'm Tiffany Brown with Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency.
I'm Laura Stevens. I'm the Project Search instructor here in Hall County at Northeast Georgia Medical Center. And here are two of our wonderful alumni, intern alumni.
Hi, my name is Will Crane.
Hi, I'm Andrew Weesey.
Good morning, my name is Scott Crane and I'm the parent mentor for the Special Education Department with Hall County Schools.
And you'll see why Rosani asked us to come present this model. We have a great partnership here. I enjoyed the lunch session yesterday because I thought, well, there's more people we can invite in our partnership that I just didn't think about. So this is a great example, and all these people contribute so much. And both of our interns have jobs. That deserves another hand. Now the TSIS video. How many people know what TSIS is? How many people have credit cards? TSIS makes all the credit cards. It's amazing what they do, and it has been a great Project Search site. Let's see if I get this right.
Inside the Output Services facility at TSIS, you'll find intern Rashawn Davis working in the mailroom. It's Rashawn's job to operate the mail meter machine that places postage on outgoing mail. Some days the mailroom will process several thousand mail pieces per day. Rashawn is one of 8 interns working at TSIS through Project Search. The transition program helps high school graduates with intellectual and developmental disabilities gain real-world work experience. It also prepares them for meaningful employment after the internship is completed.
After I graduate from the program, I would like to work in the media center at TSIS. I'll make sure they go by the order and make sure the client gets their mail perfect. My dream is having a job and then start my own house and then start a family and then get my own car.
Project Search is a collaborative program between the Muskogee County School District, Easter Seals of West Georgia, the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, and TSIS. The program was founded in 1996 at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Today, there are more than 500 Project Search sites across the United States and the world. TSIS began participating in 2016.
My main responsibility is to ensure that we're teaching the interns marketable job skills that will prepare them for competitive employment opportunities in our company or in our community. One of the great things about the program is to see the growth in the interns. You know, when they first come in August, they're scared, they're in a new environment, they get off that bus and they have no idea what to expect. But by the time they graduate from the program in May, it's amazing to see the independence, the self-confidence that they've gained, and that they are now young adults ready to take on the world.
Because no matter how hard it is, no matter how tough the work is, there is nothing I can't handle.
Project Search is an intensive 9-month program for a group of interns that involves classroom instruction, skills assessment, skills training, work-related tasks, and evaluations. An instructor, a skills trainer, and several mentors work closely with the interns.
We usually work on daily living skills that they're going to need besides the work skills, such as managing money, finding apartments, setting up a budget for the month, health matters where we talked about a balanced diet, CPR classes, financial literacy, how to get along and share your work environment.
So whether it's the soft skills of being able to communicate effectively, being able to look someone in the eye when you're having a conversation with them, a firm handshake, things like that, we're making sure that they learn so that they have both the technical skills that they need as well as the soft skills to be able to go into a role and flourish.
Changing the workplace culture and the general perception of people with disabilities is what Project Search is all about. So is developing human talent for real jobs.
Project Search really enables and highlights how someone with an intellectual disability can contribute successfully to an organization and make a positive experience to the bottom line, as well as to the culture of diversity and inclusion.
One Project Search success story is that of Anthony McCommons, who graduated from the program last year. He now works full-time at TSIS as a card production manual operator.
My favorite thing about the program, within the program, was that it helped me become more of an independent individual. And when I learned out that I was getting hired here, it was one of the most fantastic days of my life.
One of the things that give me the greatest joy is seeing the graduates from last year's program who are now TSIS team members. Well, they serve as mentors to this year's class of interns. And it's just amazing to see them passing along the skills that they've gained to a new set of interns.
As for interns like Rashawn, the end goal of his internship is a competitive job in the community.
Rashawn will take his cool and calm demeanor and ability to multitask to TSIS Media Center. To welcome him to the family is Carla.
Project Search helps interns like him develop skills that are relevant, diverse, and marketable. And that means a better quality of life for everyone.
It's been amazing to watch that program, but all of them are that way. Oh, sorry. Why 1617 data? It's because Project Search gives their interns and the folks, the partnership working with them, a year to get the individuals employed. So they take the data after a year. So the data for last year's students or interns will be coming out soon. We actually meet every year at the end of July, beginning of August. So that's when we'll see the next data. So that's why it looks like it's old. It's not really. So this is the number of program sites at that time. There's actually more than 600 now. It grows every year. 601 is the last number I heard, but it's probably changed since then. We have 3 starting in Georgia in the fall. Total number of students usually. Distribution of the class sizes. So usually we have somewhere between 8 and 12 at a site. And this is competitive employment, 16 hours a week, prevailing wage, non-seasonal in an integrated setting. So workers with and without disabilities in the same setting. This is our enrollment, and it shows you our number of folks that were employed. You can see at the bottom line across those years. And they wondered about the 70% during last year, so they went back and looked at it, and that's why they put in the all jobs line. Actually, 80% of the individuals were employed, but some of the jobs were not considered competitive employment. Didn't meet the definition. Usually it was because of hours. So there's the hours per week. The salary is $9.98 or $9.98. And I heard some of our interns up here talking higher salaries just this morning, so that's an average, you understand. These are, that's the folks we serve is what this one is. Mostly it's intellectual disabilities. And as I said, we're in different countries too. That's why they added this slide. The different types of jobs, y'all would be really interested in that. We're looking for complex jobs, jobs that you can move up in the organization and build skills on, not just your very basic jobs. These are all the different types of businesses that we're in. The majority are still healthcare, but as you can tell from TSIS and other places, manufacturing, there are a lot of different jobs and sites. There's even some in zoos, and museums. Yeah, I'd like to work in a zoo too. Now this is a little bit, we have 601 now, and we're in 48 states and 9 countries. Isn't that great? Average hours worked, 26.3 a week. They do a recognition every year of the sites that have 70 to 100% employment, because 100% is our goal, of course. And as you can see, 194 of the programs were recognized, and 58 of them achieved the 100%. Yeah. It's just a great program. They do a wonderful job. In my previous life as a special ed director, I know that we always worried about people going through 12 years or more of education and then not being employed. And we actually had to collect data on that, so we knew who was just home. So when we found Project Search in the county that I was in, I was just thrilled. You know, we've had it now about 11 years, and it does a wonderful job. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura now, but I wanted you to see our data because it's very good. You know, and that, if you'll remember, that's averages.
Right here. Okay, all righty. So, as I said in our introductions, we're based here out of Northeast Georgia Medical Center in Gainesville. So, I'm pressing the wrong one on okay, advance. There we go. Okay, so we are an internship program where students transition. We're a transition program. They're coming out of high school, entering the work world. These guys have finished 4 years of high school. They have to complete all their graduation requirements. And that is because if they were to get hired during their Project Search internship, we can just go ahead and exit them. They wouldn't have to finish their science, social studies, any of that. So they walk with their high school classes, which you'll see that later, and they're good to go. And our daily schedule, which was on the TSIS video as well, we do have seat time in the morning for about an hour where we work on life skills, banking, resumes, everything you saw in the other video. Then we're on the job site most of the day. They have a job site mentor, plus we have a job coach. We help with them also. Lunch for 30 minutes with their department. They have to clock in and out, and then we return to class for 30 minutes in the afternoon where we do our debriefing, as we call it. What went wrong, what went right, what do we need to finish up from the morning. So they get on the job training while they're working one-on-one with a hospital employee. We have we do run on the traditional school calendar. We have 3 rotations per year, and they each last 10 weeks. And we have 2 weeks between rotations where we go out in the community and do things like do banking and apartment tours and things like that. This is just a quick list of some of our job site rotations. I'm not going to read it to you because I'm going to flip through and show you some pictures of our interns. We have a lot of the people come to Project Search wanting to do healthcare, but soon after going like into ER or someplace like that, they think, ooh, yuck, I don't want to do healthcare. So it's always a fight the first rotation for everybody to do ER, but they learn great skills. They learn how to take vital signs and all kinds of things. Our mentors are just wonderful. I know there's a little flashlight thing. Where's that? This is working. She is just wonderful. She even gives them homework. She cracks me up. She is on it. She loves it. So y'all, we couldn't have a program without the mentors. They make this program. And I wish y'all could see them all in action. But there's ER patient registration. This young lady here did so well in registration. She's a computer whiz. She is now a employee, full-time employee of the hospital. She does registration, reception, and also Jessica and Tiffany with WorkSource and VR are going to talk more on the next PowerPoint about how they helped. Cecilia is now a student at Lanier Tech getting a degree in health information management with their help. So that's why we are a great partnership. We're very lucky to have that. Pre-surgical testing, this young lady is very bright, just graduated. We thought she was going to get hired, but she didn't. Anyway, she's a whiz.
You notice the complexity of these jobs.
Yes.
These are good jobs.
Yes. Oh yeah, she is on, and the thing about the ER registration and this registration, they have to learn all the insurances. There's like 3 pages of insurances these people have to learn. They take co-pays. The first 2 girls I've shown you, Cecilia and Angelica, I mean, they're great, and there's no doubt Angelica will get hired. Inpatient rehab, this is a great one, and I don't want to steal Jessica's thunder because it is the next video about WorkSource. But Cameron is doing such a great job in inpatient rehab. They want to hire her. They just don't have a slot yet. They're trying to get the funding. So WorkSource is funding a summer internship program Jessica will tell you about. So she got to carry on her rotation through this summer for 8 weeks, hoping a job will open up by then. And the lab and the blood bank, that is so cool. They all love that if they're into gory stuff. This young lady on the right, I'm probably blinding somebody with that, was hired full-time in her rotation, I guess 4 years ago. Now, she cannot do math. She came to Project Search saying, why don't they teach you how to write checks in high school anymore? She cannot do math. She can't spell. But I'm telling you what, they loved her. She's a specimen processor, y'all, full-time specimen processor at the hospital. She's been there 4 years. So, I mean, it's just wonderful. Mailroom tech, this is a great one, isn't it, Will Crane? You want to tell us? Oh, here he is. Tell us about it, Will. That was one of Will's rotations. And Drew, wasn't it one of yours? Did you work with Miss Tammy? Yeah. Tell them about the mailroom.
You talk first.
Okay. I worked in the mailroom for my first rotation with Miss Tammy and Melissa. They were good teachers, and also the people you work with through Project Search, you kind of get attached and you want to stay in that rotation, but you got to move on. And also you go all around the hospital. Sometimes people say, oh, this isn't my package. You must deliver it on the wrong station or aisle.
That's correct. Do y'all remember how many miles a day you would walk and visit the whole hospital?
It's in the whole world.
It would be anywhere from 3 to 5 miles to deliver all the mail. And Bonnie, this is the young lady I was just telling you about that just got hired. So she graduated several years ago, but the hospital just called yesterday and they have now hired her, so yeehaw. So, yeah, everybody loves the mailroom because they love their mentor, Miss Tammy, and mailroom's fun. I mean, they're all fun. They all love their mentors. They never want to leave. Materials management. Another thing Jessica will talk about. This young man did a rotation with materials. They would like to hire him. He's doing a summer internship too through WorkSource. So great young man, smart young man. This guy in the middle did he did a summer internship too, and then he went on to Warm Springs. So both rehab helped him accomplish that, where he did wonderful things, got his driver's license. He was like the safety patrol. He just loved it. He did great. He actually, Bonnie, was our keynote speaker at graduation this year. So I'll send you that link. He did great. He's doing awesome.
So tell him what he's doing now.
Okay, his goal when he came to Project Search was to work with animals, work at the Humane Society. So since he's come back from Warm Springs, he has gotten hired at the Hall County Humane Society. So, yeah. So, respiratory therapy. If you like working with machines, this is a great one. This young man got to, this is a life support machine. He got to sanitize them and calibrate them, and then he could take them up to the floors. And then before you leave that afternoon, you have to make sure every floor is stocked with oxygen tanks. There's a lot of walking in that one too. Our job site mentor there is also a life coach. It's wonderful. Nutritional services, this young man, they just love our students. Luis came to Project Search. We do a four slide PowerPoint at the very beginning for our first employee planning meeting, which you'll hear about later. They put where they went to high school, what their goal is, and something else. Luis's goal was he wanted to be a chef last August. Well, lo and behold, they loved him. We've never had anybody hired to cook. A few of them get to work behind the hotline, but Luis is now a full-time cook there, and he's still training with the chef. He's learning to cook more and more things. So that was just so weird that was his slide, I want to be a chef, and look at him now. Environmental services. This young man has done a great job in EVS, and it's not just about taking the trash out, which y'all all know. There's biohazard stuff, and they have to do the linens, take the linens to special places and all that to be sanitized. What is so neat that they talked about on the thesis film too, this was our second intern to go in there, and John mentored Alex. It's so good, you're having your former Project Search interns mentor the new ones. And Alex, you'll see in a minute on the right-hand side, he has gotten hired. He got hired at the end of the year. I'll talk to you about that later in linens. Here is our star mentor of the universe, yes. Drew. Will, tell them about Mr. Reggie. He is the bomb, isn't he?
Mr. Reggie is the bomb. You get to learn a lot from Mr. Reggie. Like,
is that you?
You have to put all this. Make sure Mr. Reggie said, we're gonna put on stuff so you won't get dirty and your mom and dad won't get on to me. But also, I learned a lot from Mr. Reggie. He taught me how to use a power sander, and I used a power sander this summer to help my mom with some chores around the house. So I got to do some small projects, and I got to eat lunch with some of his co-workers, Mr. Mike and Charlie Bear, or Charlie and Charlie Bear. Yeah. And so, yes, he's a good co-worker, and I wish he would be part of Hall County.
No, you cannot recruit him. He's going to stay at the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see why. I have a little video clip of him. But the girls want to work with Mr. Reggie too. He's so popular. Reggie says, we are not ready for girls yet. We can't have any girls. So, but Reggie takes this to heart. He shows them all the tools at the beginning. He does a little mock-up of a wall where they can saw and hammer and do all that stuff. He is great. Reception and information desk. This is a young lady you saw in ER registration that was hired full-time and now is at Lanier Tech. I also wanted to tell you about Lanier Tech, since we are all a partnership. We have an advisory board, and of course all these people are on our advisory board, but we have one of the deans at Lanier Tech is on our advisory board, Beth Hefner. And this young man, he graduated probably, were you in David Sanchez's class, Drew? You were not, were you? He was a year after you. So he graduated in 2016. He's just applied to Lanier Tech. He's been doing construction for like 3 or 4 years. So he is now going back to Lanier Tech to do auto collision repair. So, and we still have those contacts. They come back to us and we help them. Anyway, reception, front desk, that is a lot more complicated than I thought. You just don't give somebody a room number. It's really complicated. And lots of times they have to schedule appointments, doctor's appointments, and all those sorts of things. Sterile processing is great. These are the instruments for the go up to the surgery. Yes, I think John has been there. Did we put his picture in there with his hat on? I should have done that, and you too. Anyway, this is great if somebody likes to work alone, and rote skills is perfect. Great environment for that. Radiology transport, this is where they do outpatient procedures like x-rays and things like that. This is a young man that just got hired. When you hear that somebody's working in linens, we don't do linens at our hospital. They're brought in, contracted out. But this young man could not spell a lick and could not read. He's very successful. They hired him on from his rotation. He uses an iPad. He takes inventory on all the floors. He can do all that math that I cannot do, much less work an iPad. But they love him. He's great. He's doing excellent. That was a life changer for him, a game changer right there, getting that job. The ladies can go to the imaging center and be a mammogram liaison. They have to put their charts in diagnostic or screening. They get them a robe. They keep the waiting room all stocked. Oh, shoot, Will just left. So this is Will that just left. But he did a rotation. Their third rotation, they can go off campus if they have transportation. So Will got to work in one of the school cafeterias at Lanier College and Career Academy. I don't know if y'all have heard about that yet, but right here in our backyard. So he did a great job prepping those lunches, and they hired him. Dad, would you like to say anything about Will?
I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Milton Martin Honda, I don't know if y'all know Senator Butch Miller, but thank you for putting in a plug for him. So he offered this to our interns' third rotation. They can detail cars, and if they have a driver's license, they can even pull the cars up from the lot down below up to the garage to detail. So. And they did hire somebody also, sorry, forgot to say that. Okay, so our goal is to become independent adults. Futures planning. Scott, you want to give a brief overview of this?
I can do that. One of the things that we do with our program is, how many of you guys are familiar with futures planning at all? No one? No one's familiar with futures planning? Okay. Futures planning is where we bring all of our students together and we bring their circle of support in with them, and we pretty much put together a roadmap for about a year to 2 years, year and a half, usually somewhere in that neighborhood, of what their goals are and then how they are going to achieve those goals. Who's in their life that can help them with the tasks that they need help with and assistance with, what they need to learn more about. Let's say, like with Cecilia, she wanted to go on to Lanier Tech. Well, okay, if you're going to go to Lanier Tech, what does that entail? how much is it going to cost you? What are the requirements for getting in? You've got to register for classes, or you've got to apply for school. You have to take what is it they take now? The Accuplacer. They change the name of it every third year, so I can't keep up with it. You have to take the Accuplacer, so you have to be able to pass the test to get in to the classes. So what is it going to take? So part of that is finding out what it is that they need to know to reach their goals as well. Laura has come up with a great plan. This is where they actually get together with their family and their friends and they do their map. They get to take this large map home with them. But Laura has put together a template, and they get in on the computer and they type all their goals in, all the people who are going to help them on that template. And then every time we have an employment planning meeting, we look at their futures plan to see how they're doing on achieving their goals. And it's a great way for them to keep up with where they are, what they might need to work on next, those kinds of things as far as achieving their goals. A lot of our students come to us and they don't have their learner's license or their driver's license. So one of the major goals for most of them is either to obtain their learner's license while they're in Project Search, or if they have their learner's license when they come to us already, to get their driver's license while they're with us. I'll have to say that probably 90%, maybe even a little better than 90% of all the students who come to us without a learner's license have a learner's license by the time they leave Project Search. So that is a huge step towards independence for them to be able to achieve that while they're there. Can I talk just a few minutes about some of the other things that we talked about earlier? To me, one of the biggest things that the kids do that I'm sure that at my old age I would have a very difficult time doing, and that is learning their way around a hospital the size of Northeast Georgia Medical Center, where you turn the corner and it looks just exactly like the hallway that you just left. I mean, I don't know how within just a matter of weeks, all of them seem to find their way around that hospital, because to me that is one of the huge things that they have to do, is to be able to get where they're going. I mean, it's not going to be very convenient for them if they leave the classroom and they're headed to their department. The next thing you know, they've taken a wrong turn and they're lost somewhere. So being able to maneuver and to navigate the hospital is huge to me for all of the kids who go to Project Search. And you can see that in some of those rotations, it's a necessary thing. If they're delivering the mail, or if they are in they have to deliver the oxygen tanks and the equipment to the different floors, the linens, the trash techs that we have. I mean, it's really a big thing for them to be able to learn their way around. I want to say a little bit about the young man who was hired in linens, because when he interviewed with us and we decided that we were going to bring him in, can I tell you that the job coach that works with Laura, she was thinking, oh, I can't believe that y'all are going to let him come in. He's pretty low as far as is what we would consider. Like Laura said, he doesn't read very well. He can't spell. She fell in love with him in just a few weeks. And I will be the first to tell you, just like I tell everyone else, all my kids need, and I call them my kids because those are the ones that I work with. I haul half of them around all over Hall County for Special Olympics and everything else. All they need is a chance, okay? All you got to do is give them a chance, and they will perform for you, okay? Will is a fine example. You tell him what to do.
Show me.
Yeah. Show me. Show me what to do. Take me to where you want me to work. Show me what the task is that you want to do. You demonstrate that to me, and I am good to go. They are dependable. They always show up for work. They love work, number one, which is a lot different from some of their regular ed counterparts who would rather just stay on their telephone and text their friends all day. They are very compliant, okay? You set forth the rules for them, they are going to follow them. Will was with the Workforce Development Youth Summer Work Program for several years, and I had gone by to pick him up, and one of the things that they stress at the trainings is not to be on your telephone at work, that's not appropriate or whatever, which is not anything that our regular ed kids always paid attention to. But I had picked Will up from work one day, and he had told me on the way home, I said, well, how was work? He said, it was great. I said, well, anything happened? He says, Papa called. So his grandfather had called him. I said, well, what did he want? He said, I don't know, Daddy, I can't use my telephone at work. You know? So so it is, for my kids, for so many of my kids with developmental disabilities, rules are literal, okay? You give them the rules, they know they're not supposed to break them, okay? So all of our kids, they just need an opportunity to go to work, and they will show you what they can do. They make great employees. I want to say a little bit about John Ferguson too. Can I talk about John?
Yeah,
Lars? Oh, okay.
Alex, we're stuck on Alex.
We are.
He came to us. He was working at a scrapyard after school and on Saturdays. His work ethic is so great. He still has that scrapyard job he goes to on his days off and on Saturday. He just loves to work.
And so another one of our young men who was hired in his very first, well, they wanted to hire him in his first rotation in Project Search to be part of the environmental services folks. And he said, I want to stay in Project Search, So he didn't take the job. And this was where his supervisor came to his employment meeting and said, we want to hire John. He is doing a great job. We love him. And him saying, I don't know. I don't think I'm really ready right yet. So in his second rotation, which he went back to, environmental services again, because they wanted him to stay, okay? The CEO supervisor, because environmental services is also a contract service with our hospital, so they contract that work in. So the person who works for the company that contracts came to John's employment planning meeting, and said, John, we want you to come to work, okay? Well, John went to work, okay? So he works at the hospital full time now, y'all. He is so dependable. They love him, in that job. And I'll be honest with you, there's been 2 or 3 employment planning meetings this year that I have cried at. Okay,
we're touchy-feely. We're the educators. It's all about feeling good. We all sit there and cry.
It is so exciting to me when people recognize my kids for what tremendous value that they have. And that is another aspect of Project Search, bringing value to the students who participate there and helping everyone understand that they are so vitally important and are going to make great employees for whoever hires them.
And the parents are there too.
Yes.
And it's so great. The parents start crying. We just all start crying. It's so wonderful. The parents are validated. Yes, I know my child has worth. Thank you.
So it's great. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, we had this little pause here. I know Scott talked about attendance at the job and reliability. Sorry. There's also, they've done production studies because, that's always a question, whether or not our individuals, our interns, meet the same level of production as the other employees, and they do that or better, which is just wonderful to know. So
it's because they're always on task.
right.
So for Project Search, they have to have their own transportation to and from Project Search, and that's because if they get hired, they need to have, their own transportation to their job. So every year we have, and Will is one of them, Drew too, y'all both used Hall Area Transit. We have a fixed connection that these young men are getting on. The young lady on the right does the door-to-door, which Drew and Will both did. It cost a little bit more, but we do travel training at the beginning of the year. They get their discount pass. We figure out the route. The best thing about this, y'all, is having the interns having to call and say, I'm not going to be riding tomorrow. Or they have to do that, don't they, Will? If you don't, 3 times and you're out if you forget to tell them you're not coming. So they are so, Will Crane, oh my goodness, before he could step in the door, he'd say, I've got to call the Hall Area Transit. And Cameron is the same way. They're uber responsible. It's wonderful. And at first they're kind of scared calling, what do I say? But at the end of the year, they got it. So that's a great resource. We are lucky to have that in Hall County. I know a lot of counties don't have that. We get CPR certified. On our weeks between rotations, we go look at apartments. They learn that you gotta have, You have to have a pet deposit if you have a pet, and a month's rent, and all this other stuff. They had no idea, and that, what, you mean this furniture doesn't come in this apartment? And all kinds of stuff. And I had one of them ask where the cafeteria was one time, so, it's a learning experience. And here's what Scott's already talked about. We have a big wall, Driving to Success wall. We start off here in the parking lot. Those that don't have a learner's license yet, when they get their learners, Will moved his car over, and then when they get their license, they go over to the finish line. So it's a cool thing. We are so lucky to have Bernero University in our backyard. I don't know if y'all are familiar with them, but they have a occupational therapy program, and we get their fieldwork students. So we get 2 fieldwork students a semester that come and do like student teaching with us 1 day a week. They teach us all kinds of coping strategies and ways to modify and adapt things on their job sites. So they love the Bernero OTs. Here we go. So these are our employment planning meetings with VR and WorkSource. So this is our, and Scott, we're a tight little community. It's wonderful. So we have like our coordinator, there's Jessica, this is Angelica and her mom, Scott's in there somewhere, their mentor's in there. There's Mr. Reggie, and you're going to see that video in a minute. But they only last 30 minutes. We do it all in one day. They show a quick PowerPoint about what they're doing on their job, and then their mentor talks, and we discuss, like after the first rotation, was ER really what you wanted to do? No, let's change that. We start on their work plan, and that work plan changes. It evolves all year long. Okay.
But we're going so fast right now, so he has to get a lot of hands-on and a lot of teaching on the go. So that's kind of what we do. So explain to her what you got in your hand.
I got this pedal.
Yes, roll it up.
Going up and the water.
Roll the frame.
And water.
Yeah, roll it. Okay. So, and this is him actually using it. He has not had that much time painting and a lot of time doing that kind of stuff, but he catches on so fast. This kid is just wonderful at what he do. So I just got it. We just throw him in there and we just got started.
Okay, thank you. Reggie tells everybody, I don't want to know anything about this intern, just give me this intern. He doesn't want to know any prior information, which is great. He is wonderful.
Reggie really is, he's in plant ops, but it's really a cover for being a life coach.
Yes.
He would make a tremendous life coach.
Yes.
He is very respectful to the students, and he helps teach them manners as well if they do not have them. By the time you leave, Mr. Reggie, you're saying yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
And he was in the Army, and
Yes.
if he saw me sitting here like this, he'd get on to me.
Yes.
Put your hands in your pockets. Everybody loves him. And he has been Employee of the Year at Northeast Georgia Medical Center before, obvious. Okay, so we have Project Search Gmail accounts. We send them assignments on it. They have to apply for jobs through it, all kinds of things like that. Them just learning to email is a huge thing. Of course, we apply for jobs. They have to open their own checking account. We'll tell you more about that on the next video, which is great. Can't be in their parents' names. Got to be in their name. We also get a stipend from WorkSource that you will see to buy scrubs. If they wear scrubs in their department, they're welcome to wear them. So we get a stipend for that. If they need anything for, I'm stealing Jessica's thunder. I'll wait for that next slide. But we take up half a day and walk to the square to the scrub shop, and they love putting on scrubs, trying them on and getting their scrubs. We practice dress, interview skills, interview dress. We have mock interviews. These are people from the community, resume writing. This is really, you don't need to know this. This is just their dress code. We do community service and volunteer work between rotations. We work at the food bank. We have a little, what grade is Becky's class? K through
3.
What, K through?
Oh, K through 2, excuse me.
K through 2, special needs class at an elementary school. We go and work with We go to them once a year. They come to us once a year. We have a big party. I didn't mean to do that. We do Special Olympics. We run the kiddie games at the spring games at Special Olympics. And of course, at the beginning of the school year, all of our interns come from we have 7 high schools in Hall County, so they all come from different high schools. They don't know each other. So part of those 2 or 3 weeks at the beginning of the school year are about team building. And the eligibility, in our county, you have to be a Hall County employee. Student. We have another school system in Hall County, in Gainesville City Schools, but they have to be a Hall County student, and they have to be 18 to 21, have a voc rehab counselor, and completed all their high school requirements, and have their own transportation.
Well, there are some adult models, just so y'all hear that too.
Yes. Yeah. So at the end of the year, we have our own graduation. We have a nice auditorium at the hospital, and the interns get to wear, these are their caps and gowns from their high school graduation. So they wear their own high school cap and gowns. We have a nice graduation where they get their Hall County diploma and their project search certificate. And you really don't need to know the rest of that. So that was our graduation we just had. It's very nice. And there's our website if you're interested. Project search.
All kinds of information on that website.
Yep. And then Jason Hobbs is our local coordinator for Hall County. That's my info. And then this is Bonnie's info, which I think she's probably already given you. Any questions? And it is really a year-long process, y'all. We start tours in the fall. The high school CTI teachers bring the kids into tour. 11th grade is good. Even earlier would be better so they can learn about us. Then the applications go out like in January, and they have to be in February. We do a skills assessment. All these people come, and we give them mock skills like they would do on the job. Then we have interviews. They have to interview with all of us, and then we make our selections. So,
one thing that I wanted to talk about too, just a minute, Laura, is we talked about our students having to finish all their high school requirements. So they do walk with their class, but they defer their diploma. If we graduated them, it would be very difficult for us if we brought them back. That's a big no-no. But it is something that all of our high schools have been very gracious about, because there's this crazy stuff with the federal government that if you don't graduate in 4 years, you're really not a graduate. So all of our high schools, for every one of those students that they send to us that has not graduated in 4 years, they take a hit for that student. So our high schools, our principals are very gracious about that. They're willing to take that hit for these students to come and be successful, let's say.
Students with disabilities can attend school through their
22nd birthday.
Until they turn 22.
But you got to figure this out. Now, the federal government has a rule that says you have to graduate in 4 years, but then they have another rule that says you can go till you're 22. I asked a presenter at one of our conferences one time, I said, do you think that the Department of Education will ever truly recognize IDEA? Because right now, they really don't. Because if you stay until you're 22, you're not considered a 4-year graduate in your school, that high school or whatever. They take a hit on their numbers and on their criteria for graduation if that child stays that long. So,
one more thing. I did my 3rd rotation. I split it in half. In the morning, I worked at LCCA Hall County lunchroom, and then I worked down at the South Tower cafeteria. And the interview wasn't sit down, talk about what you like, what you don't, what your strengths are, and what your weaknesses are. No, mine was like, share your hand, you have the job. So
You're hired.
You're hired, yeah.
well, that's the thing about Project Search. They get to see you working in that. You don't even need it. Thank you, Will. And Will is a worker too. He started work at 7:30 in the morning at LCA. It was like a 20-minute drive, 15 to 20-minute drive. I think he'd eat lunch in the car, then he'd go straight back to the hospital. I gotta go to the cafeteria. Will, you need to rest. No, I gotta go. He's a worker bee.
Well, I'm Jessica Williams again, and work with the WorkSource Georgia Mountains. I'm the youth services supervisor there, and we partner a lot with VR. So we're kind of going to tag team on this slide presentation just to share with you guys why we think it makes sense for us to partner with Project Search. Understanding that we do have the 75% funding that has to be out of school, we still chose to keep our Project Search program as an in-school program. Right now, it is our only in-school program, but has proven to be completely worth it. So just to kind of share, we have common goals because with WIOA, we are looking for those who are considered to be at risk or have barriers to education and employment. Having a disability is one of those that qualifies for WIOA. And we want to see successful citizens. We want to see people able to go to work and to have a successful career. So Project Search wants that. We want that. Hall County Schools wants that. VR wants that. So why not partner together for this program? And just the opportunities. We have a business liaison already in Project Search working to help find employment for these students. So it just makes sense for us to be able to partner. Did you want to add anything to that? So if we look at our required elements for WIOA, we know that tutoring, employment training, paid and unpaid work experience, occupational skills training. Most of you, if you're familiar with with WIOA, you know what those 14 elements are. We're able to incorporate a lot of these elements into the Project Search program and can offer these services through that program. The ones that we're not able to, VR can offer, and the school system does as well. So it fits in line with the WIOA eligibility. And as I've mentioned, we did think about the in-school versus the out-of-school. They are considered in-school because they have completed their graduation requirements but have not graduated. They hold their diploma until they finish the Project Search program. They have a documented disability, and that's one of the barriers for WIOA. They also fit within the age bracket because, as Laura mentioned, the age for eligibility for Project Search is 18 to 21. So why it makes sense for us, and I think VR the same way, there's employment planning meetings, so they're on a track to gain employment. There's training support, and we're able to offer work experience and internships there at the hospital or one of the other sites that they may have completed a rotation or worked in a rotation to help gain that employment. Just jump in.
Yeah. And so during the employment planning meeting, VR come in and we develop a work plan for the students. So on the work plan, we just put the objectives down. We put their goal of what they want to do, their interests, and then we put the objectives down. And so when we meet at the employment planning meeting, we just make sure that the students are reaching those objectives or obtaining those objectives to reach their employment goal. And yes, we also do, we have a provider to come in and do vocational evaluations. So if the student don't really know exactly what they want to do, then we can provide them with a vocational evaluation, and that just tests their skills, abilities, and aptitude. So, and once that report comes back, we can give a copy of the report to the student and the parents, and we can also give a copy to Laura and our partners.
And you can see some of the other opportunities that the students gain from their employment planning meetings. Sometimes it's a large group that they have to present in front of. And I know in particular, we had one young lady this year, the beginning of the year, she would have an anxiety attack just because she knew she had to speak in front of, I think there was maybe 8 of us in the classroom. But by the end of the year, it was amazing. She was speaking in front of the whole graduation. So it's opportunities they've had throughout the year to develop those skills. They develop self-advocacy. And I would say even outside of those with disabilities, we have regular ed students coming through our programs that have not learned how to self-advocate. And we're having to teach some of those skills as well. So we're able to educate parents on resources, both from WorkSource and with VR. And you can see that there's career counseling and advising that happens in each of the employment planning meetings. We have goals that they develop through future plans. And I will say also, I didn't know much about future plans until we started working with Project Search, but we also use them in other parts of our youth services, not just for Project Search. So if you are working with youth services, and I don't care if they're 22, 23, we do these programs, future planning with our participants, and it would just be amazing to you to see how they're setting goals and how they're able to meet them, and they get so excited when they meet those goals. And then recommendations and encouragement of resume and portfolio.
And so we, VR, we do have a provider that come in once or twice a week and provide personal social adjustment. And that's also working on the self-advocacy and, you know, being able to advocate for yourself. And if you need something, you know, communicate that to your supervisor. So I really like that.
That is a great resource for us.
Some of the things that we're able to fund through WIOA funds is if they are required to wear scrubs or a certain type of uniform in the rotation that they are participating in, we're able to give a stipend for those uniforms, as Laura mentioned earlier. Any equipment that they may need for that rotation as well, certain types of shoes, or if they have to have a stethoscope or whatever the case may be, a certain watch. And any other supplies that would be required for that training support. So we also offer transportation assistance since it's not provided to the students, and this could be that they're having to get a taxi or they're riding the Gainesville or the Hall Connection. But the great thing about this transportation assistant is it's kind of twofold, because we're also teaching them about time management. They have to keep an attendance form. They have to quote unquote clock in and show that they are there. They have to make sure that they turn it in at the right time so that they can get their stipend. And they also have to have their own checking account. And the reason they need this is because we do direct deposits. So they are having to open their own checking account. Laura works with them on how they are keeping up with their funds in the checking account, kind of reconciling what's going on with their checking account, making sure that they are checking it. Do they still do it on a daily basis?
Some of them do it on an hourly basis, especially when they turn their time sheet in. Yes.
But just on a regular basis, so that they know what's going on with that. And it helps them to keep on a schedule.
And also with the transportation, so once the student have obtained their learner's permit, then VR can also help them with drivers. So we can do a driver's evaluation, and then once that evaluation come back and say, oh, the student may need 20 to 30 hours of driver's training, then we can help them with that. But it depends on the counselor. It is based on the income, but I feel like they need it, so usually I just provide it. So yes, we do have a provider that can come in and help with driver's training.
And Drew took advantage of all of that.
Yes, and we was able to get Drew a vehicle modification for his hand controls.
Sure. Yes.
So we do have we have assistive work technology team that can come in, which is the rehabilitation engineers and the technicians to come in and help with vehicle modifications.
We're going to try to quickly go through the slides. We're starting to run out of time, but this is just to show what one of the attendance forms looks like that they have to turn in. and some of the other services that we can offer in Project Search. That's along with VR. The paid wages, we provide workers' comp for our work experience and work evaluations. So when we do an internship, we do provide wages. Like Laura mentioned, we have 2 this summer that we're working with, and hopefully they'll be hired by the end of the summer. That's our goal. This is what they have to turn in. It shows their in and out times. It has the supervisor's name on there for their work site. They also have to do a biweekly evaluation for each of the students who are participating. We also have a life coach mentor that comes in and works with the students once a month. And she mainly, whereas VR is working with the social skills and that sort of thing, she's mainly working with character building and doing interviewing and that sort of thing, being prepared for a job. This was a counselor that we had. And this was her dog that she would bring in for therapy. And the students loved having the dog come in. I can't remember. She came in
His name was
Munson, but he came in once a month or once every couple months.
She would bring him whenever she could.
Where there was a need, yeah. So yes, they loved Munson. He was a big dog.
So cute.
So I guess we'll open the floor for any questions that you guys may have.
One thing I heard that I thought I might want to clarify for you is Project Search isn't usually paid internships. This is something special during the summer that is paid.
It's after they've completed Project Search.
Right.
You're using your WeOU services?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have a question, but I have a testimonial. I shared with Bonnie earlier that I worked at Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx for a number of years, and we had Project Search in the building, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I know we're talking a lot today about participants, but I want to share, like, the staff who worked on Project Search, they were our strongest advocates, and they got so much from participating in it. So kudos, it's really wonderful.
Yeah, and that's the thing, people don't understand, these job site mentors, they're doing that out of the goodness of their heart. They are not compensated, and, they have a lot of work to do, plus train with the interns.
And that was such a good point, Nancy, because Project Search changes the lives of the interns, their family, the community, the people that work with them. It just changes lives. It changes expectations. It's just a wonderful program. If you don't have one in your school systems, send them to. Tell them to call me. Those are the easiest to start. The adult programs we're still working with, how to get it funded better. The part about staying in school until 22 is how the school age ones are funded. They're funded through FTE usually is what we call it in Georgia.
One of the things too that we were talking about, Bonnie was talking about how it changes lives. Just as a sharp contrast, the young lady who was in the lab that Laura showed you earlier, she came to one of our state conferences when the parent mentors meet, which is what I do. And we meet every year, and we brought another one of the young ladies who is working in the cafeteria. And they both did a great job presenting, but one of the young ladies was talking about how excited she was saving her money, she was going to be going on a cruise with her coworkers, they had really just taken her in and embraced her. And I'll have to say that for everybody who works in the hospital, that's what happens. They bring them in, they embrace them. But the other young lady who was there was talking about how excited she was to have a job because now she could help her family. So it did change the trajectory. She was the first person in her family to have a full-time job with benefits. So it is a huge game changer for so many of our students. And just let me plug Jessica and our VR guys, partnerships beyond belief. We have absolutely the best run WIOA office in the state of Georgia. I don't know if you're here from Georgia or not, But I will tell you that that is the truth. That is the truth. They work hard, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they keep a lot of their stuff in-house, so they have their finger on everything that's going on all the time.
And Mr. Drew Weesey did not get to tell you what he's been doing since he graduated in 2015, the past 4 years.
So 4 years ago, I got hired with this company, Walgreens, and they are an amazing company, and yeah, so it's 4 years coming up on this August. So in August it'll be 4 years.
And you'll see his big old truck sitting out in front of Walgreens too. Okay, one more story. Okay, so we have an intern that was in their second class, started out in environmental services. Long story short, 10 years later, he is now a daytime lead for environmental services at the hospital.
Upward mobility. There you go.
That's all. We're going to be quiet now. We could talk about Project Search all day. It wants the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, we only have 2 minutes. Anybody have questions? Give these folks a big hand for coming here.